Hello everyone, back tuning in to JMA Sunday. So we're going to have a look at the next 3 months with the Japanese model for today's video. We're going to go ahead from April through to June inside of the summer with this update. And as you know, with the Japanese model, there's a huge amount of information that we can glean from it. And I don't have time when I do the seasonal updates. I do one seasonal update once a month. This month will be the first one for the summer. I don't have time in those updates, we're looking at around 10 or 11 models. I don't have time to sort of include everything within the Japanese model that we can look at. So I like to sort of isolate out with JMA and have a look at all the charts that go with this model. Actually, as it turns out, because this is only going from April to June, we won't be including it when I do the first summer update, which will be 2 weeks today. Easter Sunday will be the first summer update. I won't actually include the JMA this month in that seasonal update. The Japanese model will come on board, or come on stream if you like, for the summer updates from next month. But anyway, this is covering the late spring, early summer period, and I thought you'd enjoy having a quick look at what the JMA is predicting for the next 3 months. So we're going to be doing that today. Later on the Easter updates page, we'll do the first sort of proper update for the Easter holiday weekend. I did a written update a couple of nights ago, but today will be the first sort of video update for Easter, so that'll be later on today. Well, before we get on with that, just to say about the ads at JMA. So there's links to articles on all the pages. Have a browse through the widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks so much for doing that. There's also video ads on most pages. Open up the content when you watch them, they'll close back up again. It helps to pay for our website, all of this advertising, so it allows us to remain completely free of charge. We don't have to worry about implementing subscriptions or anything like that. It just means that because the ads are there, because you're seeing the ads, because you're engaging with them, either clicking them or watching the video, doing your shopping through Amazon, or just clicking through the Amazon banners that we're testing on most of the pages. However you want to get involved with the ads at JMA, it just means that we can stay completely free and deliver all of these videos and updates to you without having to charge you any sort of subscription or anything like that. So it does make a difference to the website. It allows me to have the website ready, so when you finish with the video, you can have a bit of a play around with the ads before you go off and do whatever else you want to do with your Sunday. It'll be very greatly appreciated by me and everybody else at JMA. Right, shall we get on with JMA Sunday Man? We're going to start off with the 500 millibar height anomalies from the Northern Hemisphere view, looking down from the top of the pole into the mid-latitudes, and then we'll have a look at the corresponding temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with these height anomalies. So we're going to start off with April, of course. That's month 1 for this month's update of JMA Sunday. As you know, with 500 millibar heights, blue extrapolates to low pressure, and yellow, orange and red will extrapolate high pressure. So for the coming month, at April, we've got an anomalous ridge here over the pole. That's quite a big blocking feature sitting over top of the North Pole, and then we've got this trough feature around the UK, so I'd expect quite an unsettled month there on that trough of low pressure, and the jet stream will be doing something like that, I think. So we're on the cool side of the jet there, and we're within a trough of low pressure. There's quite a lot of northern blocking here over the top of the pole, which could force out pretty cold air out of the pole and into that trough of low pressure. So not great signals for April from the JMA model. It could be quite an unsettled and quite a cool month. We will have a look at the corresponding temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with this, but certainly for April, the signal doesn't look all that good. We move through into May, and this is a 500 millibar height anomaly for May. Again, we see a lot of vibrant colours over the top of the pole. The blocking is lessening to some degree, but it is still there. There's still quite a lot of orange and yellow over top of the pole. Certainly more than you'd expect. It's anomalous with those sort of vibrant colours, but this time it's tying back into sort of some ridging, some yellow colours down across the continent, and also extending into the Azores. So this is more of a classic setup. It probably still is quite unsettled, to be honest. I think the jet stream is still more or less coming through the country, so I do think this is still unsettled, but it's more of a classic type scenario. It's westerly, possibly southwesterly. There'd be bands of rain coming through, but there would also be some, and particularly for the south and the southeast, I would have thought, some drier and warmer conditions as well. Nevertheless, still a fairly mixed month being signalled there, I think, for May. And then we go through into June. This is month 3, as far as we can go. It's a long way out. For month 3, we've got, well, still a lot of high pressure here over top of the part. So a lot of ridging, apparently, is being forecast by the JMA to be sitting to the north of us. And also this time it extends down in towards Scandinavia, rather like that. And then we've got this trough of low pressure in the Atlantic. Now, this is a bit of a confusing one. It looks like it could be quite good because the ridge is in over Scandinavia, and I think the flow could be coming in from the east. So you would look at it and think that this flow is probably coming in from the east. It's probably a fairly warm and dry month, but I'm not sure it's all that good, really, because this trough of low pressure, I think what's going on here is that this trough is undercutting the ridge, rather like that. So what actually looks like a fairly decent anomaly chart there for June, what actually looks okay, it probably isn't that good, and actually it's probably a lot more unsettled than you would think by looking at this, with again the flow going probably something like that. So more or less bringing the jet stream through the country, I think, for June. And when it doesn't look as though it would be too bad on the face of it, but when you get into the detail of it, I think it isn't as good as it looks. So let's have a look at the tropical and mid-latitude view. As I say, that's the northern hemisphere view, looking down from the North Pole into the UK. This is the tropical view, and then the mid-latitude view. So the tropics is just here through the central part of this. We've got the northern hemisphere in the to the north of the tropics, of course. Southern hemisphere is down to the south. We don't see the polar regions. The North Pole on this chart is up there somewhere, and the South Pole on this chart is down there somewhere. So the British Isles is just here in the very far top right-hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. This is for April, so we start off with month 1 again. As you know, for April, we've got this anomalous trough of low pressure around the country. Ridging is up to the north. It's a very unsettled month being signalled here, with the flow going something like that, and the ridging to the north could be forcing quite cold air down into that trough. Let's have a look at the temperatures, the all-important temperatures, see how they're looking for April. And, well, it's not as bad as I was expecting, actually. I was expecting quite a cool month. Actually, the temperature anomaly is coming out close to average, a little bit cooler than average in the west, maybe a little bit above average in the south and the east, but overall not a great deviation for April. So the temperature signal isn't as bad as I thought it might be. The signal for rainfall, you expect it to be a wetter than average month with that trough of low pressure around the country, and that is indeed what the JMA is seeing. So wetter than average anomalies coming through for April. Generally quite a cool, unsettled and fairly wet month. The temperature signal isn't as bad as I was expecting, but it's nothing to write home about. An overall quite an unsettled April being signalled here by the JMA. Not sure if you can make out the mean wind flow, but we've got the black arrows here pointing down from the north, so that's why it's a fairly cool and unsettled month. We've got this trough of low pressure which is sitting around the country, and it's forcing the air down from the north, or the northwest really. So again, it's not a cold month being predicted by the JMA, but these models do tend to overestimate temperatures a little bit anyway. So I think it's a fairly cool, fairly unsettled and changeable month being signalled. For May, it's more of a classic pattern. We've got this ridging down to the south, got low pressure out to the northwest, and more or less bringing the jet stream through the country. So it's still an unsettled, it's still a mixed pattern, but it's not that trough stuck over the country that we have in April. It's more of a classic flat sort of westerly flow. It means that the precipitation is still coming out generally above average, so another pretty unsettled month being signalled for May. Less so than April. It's not as wet as April, but even so, still above average rainfall there for May. And then for the temperature signal, that's close to average, but those cooler anomalies out to west may be less than we have in April, if you see what I mean. So still nothing to write home about with the temperatures, but perhaps a little bit warmer. The wind arrows are pointing from the west. Again, you probably can't make it out all that well, but generally the arrows come from west, indicating it's a more classic month in May. It's a classic westerly, bands of rain coming through, showers in between, probably some ridges for a few days, settling things down before the next band of rain comes through. That kind of westerly driven month. And then finally we go through to June, and June's quite a complicated one. So we've got the trough out to the west and the northwest of us. We've got quite extensive ridging up to the northeast. You can't really make it out on this chart, but we're just looking at it anyway on the northern hemisphere view. So it looked like we could be bringing in sort of an easterly flow and perhaps not have too bad a month, but this trough of low pressure might, I thought, be undercutting that ridge and possibly bring the jet stream through the country. So what looked like it could be a decent month on the northern hemisphere view, maybe not quite as good as it looks. And, well, that's really borne out by the rainfall. So the precipitation is coming out wetter than average. So all 3 months, April, May and June, all looking wetter than average with this update of the JMA. It's an unsettled continuation, because it had a very wet start to 2016. It goes on through the coming month. Each month of the next 3 comes out with above average rainfall, according to the JMA. And in terms of the temperatures, that's not anything to write home about either. And in fact, the cooler anomalies are probably strengthening to the west of us again. And, well, it's sort of average temperatures, again, close to average, but with how close those cooler than average anomalies have got out to west of us around here, we could probably expect quite a disappointing temperature, I would think, in June. So, to be honest, all 3 months not looking all that great. It's a bit of a pessimistic one, this, with generally wetter than average conditions for the next 3 months. And the temperature is nothing to write home about, just average and maybe at times a little bit below, particularly in April and then maybe again in June. The wind arrows show that we're generally under a westerly flow here. Again, you probably can't make it out all that well, but generally it's westerlies coming across the Atlantic and delivering us quite an unsettled month. Finally, I just want to show you the sea surface temperature anomalies for the Pacific. Just see what the JMA is predicting for El Nino, or for the ENSO region. So this is for April. This is the sea surface temperature anomaly forecast for April. And again, you see that we've still got the signature of El Nino there through the Equatorial Pacific. El Nino is this massive warm water, these red colours from Peru over here to Indonesia over here. I talk about this in the ENSO videos all the time, of course. So the signal for El Nino, albeit a weakening one, continues into April. What happens as we get through into May? Let's just have a quick look at May. And still, yes, we've more or less got that El Nino signature, but it is weakening very, very rapidly by the time we get through to May. So really, it's a collapsing El Nino signature by the time we get through to May. And then we go through to June, and look at this. In June, we start to find some cooler than average waters beginning to appear. You probably can't make it out all that well, but there's definitely a very significant reduction in temperatures going on here from the 3 months from April to June. And by June, we do, in fact, have a little bit of blue just starting to appear there in the central part of the Equatorial Pacific, and again off the Peruvian coast. Not dramatic, but there's the temperature scale. So around 0.5 degree cooler than average through the central part of the Equatorial Pacific by the time we get through to June. That could be the beginnings of a cold event. We need to wait for another couple of updates from the JMA to see what it shows for July and August. But certainly a very dramatic collapse of the El Nino takes place through the spring. Whether it swings into a colder then and goes to La Nina, probably can't say on the basis of that in June. It might just stay at that level. You don't always get a La Nina after an El Nino, so it might stay at that sort of level and we just have neutral sort of condition through the summer. But if I was betting on what it'll show next month, I think it'll show a continuation of a cool down by July, because next month's update will take us from May to July. By July's chart or forecast from the JMA, I'd expect to see quite a bit of blue starting to appear there in the equatorial Pacific. We'll come back to it next month and see whether I am right or I am wrong. So possibly shifting towards a La Nina event with the JMA model. But to come back to the weather the next 3 months, it all looks a bit grim, I have to say. I'm sorry about that, but I can only tell you what the charts are showing. And this month's update indicates a pretty unsettled 3 months ahead. All 3 months, April, May and June, coming out with cooler than average, coming out with wetter than average precipitation, above average rainfall. What am I talking about? Rambled on far too long. Above average precipitation is forecast next 3 months from the JMA. Temperatures, they come out closer to average, but nothing to write home about. April, probably on the basis of the setup, likely to be a bit cooler than average. June could be as well. So it's a bit of a grim one. Alright, that's all for now. We're looking at Easter later on. Remember, this is all just for fun. It's not to be relied upon at all. So don't be too despondent if you want some warm and dry weather. We're going to have a pretty warm and dry week coming up this week anyway. It's going to be quite a pleasant week. So we're going to have a look at Easter on the Easter updates page this evening. Come back for that. But that's all now, and thanks for watching.